Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. There's some strange gaps in my bookshelves which can only possibly mean one thing. It's book haul time. I'm doing my second quarter book haul, so these are all the books that I hauled in April, May and June. It's more than I wanted. I need to not buy so many books, and I'm gonna try in the next quarter to not really buy any, because I have a whole load of books that I am really excited to read right now. So I'm going to try and focus on them. Obviously I will be getting I have a load of special editions that I've already paid for and all of that. So I will be getting some books, but I'm going to try and keep the others. And obviously anticipated releases and stuff like that I'm also going to buy. But all of the other stuff I'm going to try and keep it to the minimum. Will that happen? We'll see. I suppose we'll just jump right back into this and go back all the way to April, so many months ago now. This year is going really quick though, that does freak me out. And so the first books that I bought in April were The Iron Crown and The Shadowgate by L.L. McRae. These are two self-published books, and I ate these up. I gave them both really high 4 stars. Like, I kind of feel like I want to give one of them 5 stars, but I had little issues with both of them that prevented me from giving them a 5. But as a series so far, I'm loving the series. You know, I feel like I have that sensation quite a bit where I'm I like this book, but this series overall, I love it. Another one for me that does that is Timur. I give basically every single book in that 4 stars, but I would consider it one of my favorite series of all time because I love the series overall. It follows Fen, and he wakes up and he doesn't know who he is, where he is, anything like that, and these 2 girls come across him and then they agree to help him. They're a bit suspicious of him at first, but then they really start to believe that he has no idea who he is, and so they set off kind of on a quest to try and figure out who he is. But also one of these girls is a former noble. She has to return home after her father has died, so then there is also that political aspect. And as I said, I just had such a good time. I did really enjoy the audiobooks, and excited to continue this series one day. I want it now. Also, I didn't mention it, these are signed and personalized, because you obviously, since she's a self-published author, if you buy them off your website you can get them signed to you, so that's nice. Next one, there's quite a few actually in this that are going to be in a weird order. I'm going to be hauling the second book, then the first book, and just bear with me. Bear with me, because I started reading T. Kingfisher books, and the only way you can get the indie published paperbacks is through Blackwell's for me. So I have to buy it through Blackwell's, and Blackwell's can sometimes be slow. So we got some of these in weird orders. So next I hauled The Wonder Engine, which is book 2 in the Clock Tower War series. So I feel like I need to preface because these will be coming up quite a bit. So in my last book haul, the very last book I hauled was Sword Heart, and love that, gave it 5 stars, all that jazz. But it is actually set in this entire world that she has created, and what does she call it? The world of the Temple of the White Rat or something like that. They are all interconnected series. So there's the Clock Tower War series, there's the Saint of Steel series, and then there is Sword Heart. So I would, despite the fact I did read Sword Heart first, I would actually recommend reading them in order. So publication order. So the first one is actually Clockwork Boys. We'll be getting to that in a minute. And then Sword Heart, then the Saint of Steel series. I think that way you really get the best picture of the world. And I think it's not something you think going into fantasy romance, oh, I'm going to get so invested and interested in this world. But each book keeps building it up and building it up, and you really start to get a full feel of it. And so I think if you are someone who likes world building and all that stuff, as well as a bit of fantasy romance, I think you should do that. But also, I think, so this is the second book in the Clock Tower War series. The first book is Clockwork Boys. I think you need to read them basically back to back, because they really feel like one book to me, and they're both quite short, so I don't really understand why it isn't one book. I feel like it should have been one book, because the first book very much feels like the first half of a book, but I still enjoyed it overall. I gave them 4 stars. But anyway, so yes, I will give you a synopsis when I actually get to the first book in the series. Next up, I have Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. So again, I believe that was actually in the same order as that. So this is the 3rd series in that world. So this is the Saint of Steel series, and it follows the 7 paladins that are left. So 3 years ago, the Saint of Steel, this god, died, and all of his paladins basically kind of lost their minds, and Now there is only 7 of them left, and each book in the series follows one of them as they have their own little romance. So this one follows Stephen and Grace. Grace is a perfumer, and Stephen is kind of basically doing odd jobs for the Temple of the White Rat, and they accidentally get involved in this political plotline, and like halfway through the book it turns into like courtroom drama. It was a lot of fun. Wasn't my favorite though. And the next 2 books that I got were the Silver Under Nightfall duology, the Illumicrate editions. I love these so much. They're so beautiful. So Silver Under Nightfall follows Remy. He is a vampire hunter, and there are these reports of this very strange vampire attacks happening that are unlike any others. And he ends up finding himself being teamed up with a couple of vampires. He finds himself getting very wrapped up in them, as well as like all of this political scheming. I loved the first book so much. I still have not read the second book. I'm so scared of it because I have heard very 3-star things. Like, I feel like I haven't heard a lot of like, oh my god, I hate this book, but I haven't heard anyone like really love it either. I feel everyone, even people who have loved the first book, have been very much, it was okay. And that's scary. Okay, so purple edges, little coffin on the back. It's just plain purple on the top and bottom. Then we have the same art on the back and the front, and then that is the foiling underneath. It is fabulous, and then it is signed. Even if I don't love this, at least it's pretty. So this one is also signed. Again, it has some art on the inside, and I do love the art style as well. Beautiful underneath. And this one, as I said, it's kind of more an orangey red kind of sprayed edge. So yes. So then, as I said, stuff coming in weird order. Next up, I hauled The Clockwork Boys by T. Kingfish. This follows a disgraced paladin, not one of the Saint of Steel ones, a dreamer's paladin. They're different. An assassin, a forger, and a scholar, as they all ride out on, as they all leave town on basically an espionage mission. This ragtag team that is thrown together, and they are doing their best because they obviously all are basically criminals and they will get a pardon if they succeed, but they're doing something that nobody expects them to come back from. And so they are trying to figure out what are these Clockwork Boys that this like neighboring country has in their army. And the next book that I have is To Gaze Upon Wicked Gods by Molly X. Chang. And I know that there is controversy surrounding this book. I can't really judge it until I read it, but like obviously like there is, you know, colonizer romance was the thing that was being thrown around. And she did, I think publicly, like on TikTok or something, say that it was like for people who thought Zuko and Katara should have ended up together in Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is literally the definition of a colonizer romance. I will say that's actually a big problem I have with fantasy romance in general, is so much of it is colonizer romance. Like, so much of it. And nobody ever talks about it, and yet the one Asian author that does it is getting called out for it. I find a little weird. So then next up, I actually have 2 books from my trip to Paris. I went into Shakespeare and Company, and I did also buy a tote bag, which I'm not gonna bring, but I did buy a tote bag while I was there as well. And it was basically people that say they don't have time for reading, but I only have time for reading. And so the first book that I bought was The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I am making my way through N.K. Jemisin's backlist. I haven't been doing a very good job of it this year. I think, have I read any of her books this year? I am going to be doing it. I will be ranking all of her books. And I was like, I do need this, so I might as well buy it while I'm here. So this is basically a love letter to New York. Basically all of the boroughs, is it boroughs that they're called, are personified in this. That's all I know about it. I'm excited. I also bought The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And you might be saying, Rebecca, you already own that. And the answer would be yes, I do. Twice already. This is my 3rd copy. But like, it was the illustrated anniversary edition, which I don't have. And obviously it starts in France in 1714. So I was like, I was like, it's fitting. So I got it. Also, I've never like seen this in person. I've only ever seen it online. So I was like, might as well. And so it has some like beautiful art in there. And yeah, foil cover underneath. Also, I did get it stamped in there to say that I got it in Shakespeare and Company. But that is everything that I got in April. Next up was May, and May is my birthday month. So I got some books, of course I did. So at least these ones shouldn't take me too long because a lot of them are series. So I have these in the wrong order. Valor, Rune, and Wrath, all by John Gwynne. I read Malice in March. And I liked it. I gave it a 4 stars. It was kind of a lower 4 stars. It didn't live up to the hype that I had in my head for it, but I'm hoping that I will like the series more as I continue. But honestly, I still don't, despite the fact that I read the first book, I don't know what to say as the synopsis. Like, it follows a world where there's this prophecy, and there's a lot of people that are trying to basically make it so that the prophecy goes their way, and that they're going to be the one that, like, you know, makes this prophecy come to fruition, let's say. That's a really bad synopsis, but like I don't have a better one to give. And also I got The Witness for the Dead and The Griefless Stones by Catherine Addison. So these are companion novels to The Goblin Emperor. I love The Goblin Emperor. I read that last year. And so that follows Maya, who is a half goblin, and he is the like abandoned son of the emperor, and he is the 4th son, so like he doesn't really matter. And then all of his family, his father and all of his brothers, are killed in an accident, or is it? And he becomes the emperor, and it's the day-to-day running of that empire. And then, as I said, so these follow a side character that we meet in the first one, who is a witness for the dead, which means he can kind of like touch the dead and like see maybe their last memories and stuff like that. And it just follows his day-to-day life. Because I just finished this one. That there's actually going to be a 3rd book that's out next year, so I'm excited for that. Tress the MLC by Brandon Sanderson. Again, this is one that I read last year. So this follows Tress. She lives on this island. She's in love with this boy who's the Duke's son. Yes. And he goes off with his father and he does not come back. And she is determined to go and find him. And so she sets off to find him. And along the way, she learns a lot about herself. And I had such a good time with this. That's all I'll say. I really enjoyed it. Every time I'm like, I don't really like Brandon Sanderson. But then when I read his books, I enjoy them. And I'm like, I do like Brandon Sanderson. It's just like, there's nothing about him that like really excites me. This sounds really mean. But like, for some reason, there's like this weird disconnect where like, I don't feel excited about the thought of picking up one of his books. But when I read his books, I do enjoy them. So it's this really weird thing. I would say like most of his books are 4 stars for me. So like I always like his books, but it's just like there's nothing there that like really gives me the like, oh my god, I'm so excited for this new release or whatever. Like, but I did really enjoy this. So Turning Darkness into Light by Maureen Brennan. This is the 6th book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series. So this follows her granddaughter. So it's not really set in the main series. So this follows her granddaughter, and she is a scholar. She translates, and she accepts this job, and she's translating these tablets, and she is just, it's just very interesting. It's told in like diaries and letters and newspapers and all of that kind of stuff, as well as like the actual translations of these tablets. And I did not enjoy this as much as the first 4 books in the series. There was something that happened in the 5th book that I wasn't sure that I liked, and that plays a big role into this book, because I felt like I really liked the nature of the book, where like, yes, it is fantasy, but like it doesn't feel fantasy. It's just their normal world. And something happened in the 5th book that kind of was like, oh no, it is fantasy. And obviously that then plays into this. And also I am just more of a science person than a language person. But like if you were a language person, I can definitely see why you would love this. Those are the books that I got for my birthday, that I got on my birthday. And then I went shopping on my birthday and bought myself more books. So I bought Happy Place by Emily Henry. I had read this like the week before, and I love this. I love this. I actually can't even talk about it because I just love it. I just do. And it's just for me, you know? And so this follows Harriet and Wynne, and they are broken up, and they were engaged. They and they go to this beach house every year with her friends, and they haven't told anyone, and then they basically have to fake it so that they don't ruin the trip for everyone else, because it will be the last time at the lake. The Adventures of Mina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. I give this a 4 stars. Again, I read this last year when it came out. I listened to the audiobook. I liked the audiobook. And I read all of her books. So yes, but this follows Mina, and she is a pirate or retired pirate. But one day a woman comes and basically low-key threatens her to go off on one more mission. And so she sets off to get her crew back together and to complete this job. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite. I much prefer the City of Brass Dave Bad trilogy, but I still did enjoy this. I also got Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey, the first of the Chronicles of Pern, which, like, it literally only comes in mass market paperback, which I think is so ugly, but whatever. I've heard really good things about this. I know Emma loves maybe the entire series, I don't know. I know Cassidy loved the first one, which also actually makes me kind of nervous to read this because we don't tend to agree on 5 stars anyway. A lot of 4 stars will, like 3 and 4 stars will sometimes agree. 5 stars, we no. But she didn't like the second book, so maybe I'll really love the second book. I don't actually even know what this is about, and I can't even lie and pretend to give you a synopsis. It has dragons. Last book that I bought myself in May was How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying by Django Wexler. So this came out, well, over here it came out in May, and it follows Davi, and she is trapped in this world where she has to defeat the Dark Lord, but she keeps failing, and she is kind of tired of this, and so she just decides, screw it, I'm gonna become the Dark Lord, and so she does. And I liked this, but it's not going to be a new favorite. Like, I think I preferred the other series that I've read from him, which is the Burning Blade and Silver Eye series. But I still enjoy this. I just think, for me, it very much, the writing style got very repetitive. I had to take breaks when I was reading it. Also, the chapters are really long. So basically, it was like, I would read a chapter, put it down, do something else, read a chapter, put it down, which is not how I usually consume books, but I had to do it with that one. But I still gave it a 4 star. Not a particularly high one, but it squeezed in there. Order. So we have Paladin's Strength, the second book. We have Paladin's Faith, the 4th book. And then we have Paladin's Hope, which is the 3rd book, which is so much smaller than the others. But obviously these are books 2 to 4 in the, what is the series called? Saint of Steel. So I have read Paladin's Strength. I gave it 5 stars. This follows just one of the paladins. So this one is Ishtavan, and then we also follow Clara, who is kind of a nun of a secretive order, who has a weird secret of her own that she doesn't want to let anyone know about. Basically, she gets him to help her to try and find her sisters because they have all been kidnapped, and it was so good. And then I haven't read these 2 yet, but I know that this one, I think it follows a doctor and one of the paladins, and it's a male-male romance. Very exciting. One follows Shane and Margaret. Oh, she was a side character in one of the other ones. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for this as well. I'm excited for both of them. So, yes, I have read. I'm excited to get to both of these soon. Then I got a lovely gift from Cassidy, from Covers with Cassidy. So this is The Final Strife by Sarah L. Reefy. So thank you, Cassidy, for the birthday gift. I appreciate it. So this follows an empire where everyone is divided by their blood. So you can be a red blood, a blue blood, or a clear blood. For 10 years, there are these trials. And however many years ago, they swapped 3 children around, I think, to hopefully change the world for the better. I will be reading this next month. It is on my TBR. I got the Illumicrate editions of the 2nd and 3rd book in the Winter Night trilogy. So this is The Girl in the Tower. This is The Winter of the Witch. I did also bring over my Bear and the Nightingale, though I hauled that, would have been last year. But just so you could see the whole set. So this is The Bear and the Nightingale. So this is what they look like together. I think the spines are beautiful. And then this is what they look like edgewise. You can tell the blue's like a little faded maybe, but it's fine. But anyway, so this is the 2nd one, and we have fire, and we have the skyline. 3rd one, and we have some plants, and we have the trees. So yes, so oh yeah, I suppose I should tell you what the Winter Night trilogy is about. So it's been a long time since I've had to give a synopsis for the Winter Night trilogy. This follows Vasya, who is the start of the series, is a child who can see the spirits, and she and her father remarries a woman who can also see these spirits, but she sees them and she believes that they are demons, and so she brings a Catholic priest, it's a priest anyway, to town to basically rid them of these demons. And Vasya is kind of fighting back on this, and it's just a story of her growing up basically, and I really enjoyed it when I read it. It was a good few years ago now. Then I went up and I saw Come From Away, and I loved it. It was brilliant. But I also went book shopping, and so I bought more books. Of course I did. So I bought The Angel of Crows by Catherine Addison. I think this is the last book that I need to read from her that is under Catherine Addison. I do know she has written other books under Sarah something, I think. I can't remember. I feel like it's kind of like Sherlock Holmes inspired and all that. So London, 1888, angels inhabit every public building and vampires and werewolves walk the street with human beings in a well-regulated truce, a utopia, except for one thing: angels can fall, and that fall is like a nuclear bomb in both the physical and metaphysical world. Yeah, and so Dr. J.H. Doyle returns to London after being wounded in Afghanistan by a fallen, and finds himself lodging in Baker Street with the enigmatic Crow. So, and then they end up trying to figure out the Jack the Ripper murders. So interesting. Interesting indeed. Then I also bought System Collapse by Martha Wells. I'm not going to talk about this very much. This is the seventh book in the Murderbot Diary series. I love the Murderbot Diary series. It follows a murderbot who hacked its governor module, and instead of killing anyone or running away, it just spends every day watching TV, which is relatable. And I just love it so much. I love Murderbot. And I've read this twice already. And so I was like, I should probably add it to the collection. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, I'm getting it. Also, I find it very interesting that now in the like also by Martha Wells, they actually have it listed. So All Systems Red, Artificial Condition, Rogue Protocol, Exit Strategy. Fine, those are the 4. But then they have Fugitive Telemetry, which is actually book 6. And then they have Network Effect, which is book 5. But this takes place after Network Effect. So I guess they're now writing it in what, like timeline-wise, chronologically what happens. But yeah, so that's interesting, I suppose. And one last book to talk about, and that is Rise of Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. This is like 780 pages, but at least it's floppy, and like it is heavy, but like literal Bible paper. Because like it's actually thinner than the first book, despite the fact that it's like 100 or whatever pages longer. But I was pleasantly surprised by the first book. I had actually read Age of Myth, which is I think a prequel series to this, and I liked it. It was like 3-star. I very much found it forgettable. It just did not jive with anything in it, like the characters, the world, anything. And this, I think, takes place after all of that stuff, and so the world is completely different. And I didn't even like love the characters or anything, which is usually what sells me on a book. But I was just so like instantly gripped. Like it just sucked me in, and who am I to complain about that? So yes, so I will continue this one day. But it is so long. I'm definitely not going to be able to hold all these up. Like, no. I'll hold up a small stack. My weak arms can only hold up so much. So that is my second quarter book haul. I do hope you enjoyed. Tell me if there's any of these that I must get to right now, this second. So thank you guys so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.